Before traveling any road, it is well to know the ruts, the turns and the grades. Even a "thank you ma'am" will give you a hard jolt if you're motoring and don't expect the little rise of ground. Probably the worst rut on the road to success is worry. And yet, strange to say, there is no such rut really on the road. It only exists in the mind of the traveler. Worry is the most powerful obstacle to business success. It never was of any good to any man, no man doubts that, yet every man worries. The purpose of this chapter is to show what a destructive force worry is and to tell how to rid oneself of it. In transacting business, a man's mind should be clear, positive and confident. If he worries, this is impossible. Worry mudds the mind, which, of course, prevents it from being clear. Worry introduces doubt, which prevents positiveness. Worry brings into play dread, which shakes confidence. A man's mental forces cannot pull example think success together for achievement while he worries. One worry often leads to another, and too many worries lead to failure. Let's try a concrete example. A man starts a store. He thinks he has built it by the side of the road to success. Business comes slowly at first, and he worries because it doesn't come faster. Now this worry takes much of the storekeeper's time, energy, enthusiasm and optimism, and when people come into the store they see the worry sign on his face. Now it's a rule that people like to deal with a cheerful, enthusiastic and friendly storekeeper. Coming back to the storekeeper in question, his worry because business isn't better makes him fear for his financial success, which causes him to cut down as far as possible the amount of goods he carries, to be over careful of his advertising, maybe to employ less expensive help, and so on, to cut here and trim there. How does all this affect trade? When the customers see the worry sign in the proprietor's face, their confidence in him and in his goods is slightly impaired. They notice that his stock is small and that economy in management seems to be his watchword. Then they go over to Brown, who is a cheerful, enthusiastic and whole-souled storekeeper, whose shop is in the district, although much farther along the road to success. Then old worry has a good laugh, the store fails, and its keeper temporarily moves off the road to success. Now you're going to meet old worry soon, for we all come across him at frequent intervals, and then what are you going to do? Breakdowns are often attributed to overwork, when worry was really to blame. It isn't hard work that a man should fear, it is work accompanied by worry. Most men are capable of far more mental effort than they ever expend, without in the least endangering their brain faculties, provided there is no worry. A little work and a great worry may be the undoing of any man. It is unnecessary to expand the argument against worry. Every man knows what an important part it plays in business. And yet, few men have considered the best means of eliminating worry. Many men believe that it can't be eliminated by a systematic method, but must wear itself out, or live until it is forgotten. There are three ways of driving worry from the mind. The first is, upon recognizing it, to dismiss it peremptorily with a "P sure. I won't worry about that." This method only answers in cases of little worries or slight fears that have scarcely developed into worry. The second method is to substitute something for the worry. For instance, as soon as worry enters the mind, one should turn his thoughts into a direction where interest will be so great that worry will be forgotten. This is a practical and sure way of dismissing worry, provided the will is strong enough. However, it has a serious shortcoming. If the worry be strong, it will soon return. Then comes the proposition, how to eliminate that worry for good and all. There is but one way. Find out the worst. In little worries or big worries, as soon as the worst is known, the mind becomes easier and thinks with a far greater degree of clearness, positiveness and confidence. And yet many men have been driven to financial ruin, many to suicide, many to utter failure in character, through the fear of learning the worst. The story is told of an Eastern bank that was saved by the heroic action of its president, who understood the value of knowing the worst. An employee had stolen bank funds and disappeared. It was not known how much had been taken. It would be a matter of days, possibly of weeks, to find out the exact loss. The newspapers and the public would have the story of the robbery within a few hours. It is human nature for the outsider to imagine things are worse than they really are. The bank president wrote a bulletin and had it placed on the front door of the bank. It carried the information that the bank had been robbed of $107,218.34. It told the capital and the surplus, which showed how insignificant the amount stolen was in comparison. Most of the clients of the bank were large companies and men of big interests, who knew that the loss of $100,000 was no reason that their faith should be shaken in the institution. The number of depositors who withdrew their savings on account of the robbery was very small, and business went on as usual. Had there been any doubt as to the extent of the loss, there would have been a far different story to tell. Rumor would have exaggerated conditions, and it is more than likely that the heaviest depositors would have withdrawn their money and seriously crippled or wrecked the institution. As it was, the presence of mind of one man saved the day. He knew that if worry was to creep out among the bank's clients there would be disaster. He understood that when a man knows the worst, provided that is not too bad, he will not worry. This story is not intended in any way to concern the ethical justification of the Bank President's Act, but merely to indicate how valuable it is to know the worst. When one knows the worst, he easily finds a way of procedure to make conditions better. Of all the hindrances on the road to success, worry is the most difficult to overcome, and yet by following the 3 suggestions for its elimination the number of worries may be cut down and their force may be to a great degree diminished.